Welcome to a slightly surprised Extra Three Legs Four Wheels podcast.
Slightly surprised and slightly lonely.
Yeah, it's just the two of us for the moment. It's Paul here with
Lee.
That's it.
See, this shows, right? I put my back out today, and I'm convinced that I was convinced that I put my back out carrying this podcast for over a year. But it turns out it was us. It was us that carried the podcast, a bill each.
Well, I might be kind of half responsible for Chris and Dan not being here, because I think I might have poisoned them with some chewy sweets this week, because they were a team in the pub quiz that I run, and their prize was a bag of, I'm not going to say the brand just in case it was the sweets. So they won this bag of sweets. And
are they alive, Paul? Is the
well,
only reason I'm alive because all the gear's in my house?
Well, the pair of them spent all day throwing up today, apparently. I'm doing that as well. So yeah, I might have wiped the pair of them out. And what a day to do it!
I know.
Sat there, man.
Rosberg's retired. Chris and Fluggett have retired. Jensen's going to Mercedes.
Shh, weren't meant to tell anyone that.
Shit. He told me this morning it was pillow talk.
That kitten of yours says some very strange things.
Well, he's got more chance to drive than Maldonado.
Yeah, that is true. I don't know, you said it was confirmed on the Facebook page earlier.
Well, the internet gave me a picture. It must be real.
So, what the hell, basically?
Well...
2 o'clock, I'm just sat there, and I'm working. I work from home, and my phone starts going, and the way to describe it is cray-cray.
Oh, yeah, totes cray-cray.
Yeah, Toto cray-cray.
That's just said. I think I texted you saying I think my phone's having a stroke.
Yeah, and all of a sudden, so I look at the phone, what's going on, seeing all these tweets and messages and alerts, and it's like Nico Rosberg's retired.
Well, because we had so many at one time, I can't remember which one of our listeners it was, because like basically all our listeners tweeted us and messages as like when it happened. And are you having a look?
I'm just looking at the latest ones. Yeah, still coming in 8 hours on.
He texts us a picture of Andrew Benson's tweet. I looked at the tweet and thought, no, fucking surely not. This is a hoax. You know, this is the big... Dave Grohl's killed himself in a car accident, shot himself twice in the back of the head.
Yeah.
I just couldn't believe it, to be perfectly honest, until I started reading and then read more and then read more.
Yeah, and then I stuck a sports news channel on and it's like, there it is, and that's all everyone's going on about. We've got the statement here.
Yeah.
Because Mercedes, unlike other teams, send press releases out.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mercedes. Since 25 years in racing, it's been my dream, my one thing, to become Formula One world champion. Through the hard work, the pain, the sacrifices, this has been my target, and now I've made it. I've climbed my mountain, I'm on the peak, so this feels right. My strongest emotion...
It almost sounds like song lyrics.
It does a bit. I mean, to be honest, I did see the... Mercedes put up a video just before last Sunday's race about what's on the driver's playlist pre-race. And Rosberg's is all really bad Eurodance with lyrics like that. Lewis seems to be into a hardcore R&B.
Oh, with that shadow of a doubt.
Oh no, he said, yeah, I don't want to say Drake because everyone listens to Drake.
I don't.
No. I think the last time I heard anything by Drake,
more of a fan of Mallard.
Last time I heard anything about Drake, I was feeding it bread.
Yes, double duck jokes.
Okay. Wouldn't have got those with the other two about.
Fucking get your bill out.
Oh yeah. So yeah, Nico Rosberg believes that he has achieved his dream and his goal, and wants to be a family man, I suppose, while he's still young enough to be one.
Yeah, it makes all the sense in the world. There's still a little bit of me thinks that he knew that this was his chance this year. This was the chance he had to win a world championship, and we've said it most of the year that this could be the only chance he ever has of winning one. Obviously, when we were thinking it, so was he.
Yes.
So that's, and I think I tweeted out before that. Obviously, I've took the piss out of Nico a lot on this podcast.
We're all kind of guilty of that.
No, I don't. I'm not going to try and hide behind anything. I still think he's massively inhuman when he comes across to people in interviews and stuff like that, and he comes across as being very smarmy and arrogant. But
I think we've now found out that's the dealing with the media, Nico.
But this is what I was going to say. I think did we talk about it on the last week's podcast?
We talked about it on last week. It's still the same week,
and it's clearly. Well, not clearly, because of course we wouldn't know unless he was taking up one of the free shares we've got in here. But it does appear that when we were talking last week, we were saying he's had to segregate various aspects of his life and like compartmentalize. I struggled with that word last week too, didn't I?
Yeah, you didn't think you'd need it again so quick, did you?
No, I'd have practiced otherwise. Yeah, but it's various parts of his personality, and it's maybe he just doesn't think it's a particularly healthy way of living a life.
Which I can perfectly understand, because having to be one person at work, but when your work is so public, and then being another person when you're away from that.
I thought the picture he posted up as well of him and Lewis was quite telling, and the tweet he put up saying, I can't believe that, I think they were in Spain or something like that, where there's a picture of them as kids sat talking
to each other with go-karts.
Yeah. He said, we talked one day about that we'd both be Formula One world champions. I can't believe it's actually happened. And it makes you wonder whether the personal relationship that he has or had with Lewis, it's whether that's really got to him. How it's deteriorated.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I'm definitely not trying to second guess here on this for what's going through his mind at the moment, because it's impossible to do.
No.
But you'd think something like that, where you've been friends and that close to someone for so long, and now
it implodes on itself.
Yeah, but you're still cooped up together.
Yeah.
It can't make you feel healthy.
Did you hear Lewis's statement about it?
Very, very polite and to the point.
Did you see not read the bit about it where he said it doesn't come as a surprise because I've beaten him for 18 years and he's just beaten me, and it doesn't come as a great surprise that he's now retired.
Arrogant little git.
I don't see.
That's media, Lewis.
No, but who knows? It could be. I that was a story I read. And you don't know what the official transcript was.
No. I mean, media bloody spin and everything like that. Just to pull you up on something you said earlier. Mm-hmm. You said 2 empty chairs. There's going to be a third voice joining us very soon.
Yeah, but he's going to be in the ether, isn't he?
He's going to be in the ether, but technically we've put the laptop that he'll be Skyping us through. We'll say that it's on an honorary chair.
Yeah, it might not hold. It might not be a chair that's in the room, but it's a chair in our hearts.
Yes, that was terrible.
I just wanted to be part of Nico's fucking leaving speech.
Sorry, I thought you just started working for the Daily Express. Where do we begin with everyone that's been in touch? Because I mean, most of this is going to be kind of a vast mailbag.
That's it. Well, no, that's a good idea for us to get before we get joined by our mate Virtual Statman. That might be a good thing to do, is to go through some of the tweets first. Yeah,
let me just bring Twitter up, even though I've just closed it down.
It's less of a mailbag today. It's more of a sack.
It's the right time of year for sacks full of stuff.
Yeah,
knowing how much you like Christmas.
I fucking love Christmas.
I have noticed.
Christmas has been as well. I got my new decorations to put up. Going to put the tree up tomorrow.
My tree doesn't go up until the Saturday before Christmas, and I can't put the tree up tomorrow. I'm busy. I've got a gig this weekend.
Oh yeah. Oh, is it Saturday?
It's tomorrow night as we're recording on Friday.
I shall do my best to come and have a look. Oh yes, because we're here on Friday.
Yes, because this is Friday night. This isn't Monday.
It's really weird because we've got headphones on today, and I don't usually do it. If I go forward, it makes me sound like some sort of radio DJ.
Yeah, well, don't go doing that, because if you pick up the radio DJ voice, that'd be all wrong, man. Not off. Where do we go? Cody Davis, can't wait for the emergency podcast. I was hoping you boys would do one. I'm in shock. So are we.
Yeah.
Lots of people have said any chance of a podcast tonight. Well, you're getting it now. This is going all very very meta. Now, it's a lot of these are who is going to replace him.
Yeah,
that we've
you've got an interesting skew on this. I personally think you're wrong, but it's nice to hear a different opinion.
right. My thoughts are that we will either see Perez or Bottas driving the second Mercedes next season. In return, the team that loses the driver gets Pascal Wehrlein and a massive discount from engines because Force India and Williams are both Mercedes teams. And I reckon they'll do that because I can't see Wehrlein going into the Mercedes team just yet because he's not ready.
Yeah, I will caveat that slightly because if Williams or Force India, given Wehrlein's Mercedes backing, if they wanted him, they could have had him.
True.
There seems to be something with Pascal, maybe his personality, that is a barrier for him at the minute to break into a top team or top team, a mid-grade team,
a better team than Manor, which is everyone apart from Sauber, really.
Bottas, I don't think they want because I think Bottas he needs Perez's year this year to put himself back on the market. Because at the minute he's a spent force, he's been fucking handed it by Massa. He's been handed it by Massa in the last couple of races when Massa's retiring.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't see Perez because I don't know. I still think he's got a little bit to prove, and I think Mercedes will want a proven driver, and more importantly, I think Mercedes sponsors will want a top flight driver.
So who does that leave in your opinion?
Jenson Button. But no, I mean,
okay, who does that leave in the real world?
It's a fantasy. Well, I tell you what, I think Jensen's already said that he can race places next year. So it's obvious. I don't know what that says, what's in his contract. I would imagine, given what Jensen's done for McLaren, if he had the opportunity of racing next year in Mercedes, I would like to think that I don't think McLaren would stand in his way because I think that would look awful for a PR standpoint.
Yes.
So, but I definitely he's got to be one of the guys. He's a world champion. He's a known quantity. He's worked with Lewis before.
Yeah, they did work well together at McLaren.
And if they didn't fall out at all.
That's known as working well if Lewis is your teammate.
Yeah. So, I think he's got to be on the list. Oh, and then obviously the two guys which are clear contenders to be on that very same list are Sebastian Vettel and Fernando Alonso.
Yeah, I can't see it being Vettel for the simple reason that even though Ferrari are a team in absolute turmoil, and he's whinged his way through the season. Ferrari would stand in his way if he wanted to go to what has been a far superior team. It
depends. I think
while he's under contract.
It's always been the case that if a driver wants to get out of their contract, they've been able to do it. I can't think of a time when a driver has been forced to drive for a team. Especially in recent history. I'm sure it happened.
It's probably happened
decades
before.
ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
But especially in recent memory, and the fact that
Guido van der Garde tried to get Sauber to force one of the drivers out so he could drive.
Yeah.
That was a driver forcing a team to drive him.
But I think he's
an arsehole.
It's probably just a situation where, because obviously all the contracts are on the team side to help to make the team stable, and on the driver's side to help the driver. It's like because the lawyers are working for each party.
Yeah.
So does it not get to that point where, because they're jostling and trying to get the best deal for their customer essentially, or that it just ends up being a house of cards? So nothing actually means anything.
You take one away and the whole lot's in chaos. Yeah.
So I think, and let's face it as well, there is no driver on the grid that wouldn't drive for Mercedes. They've dominated the championship. There's nothing saying that we think next year because of the big rule change. The only drivers that I would think would be fools to go to Mercedes right now is the Red Bull guys.
Yeah.
But even then, if let's say Daniel Ricciardo got offered the contract to go to Mercedes, it's still a gamble for him to say no.
Yeah.
Because the Mercedes aren't going to be shit next year.
No, not a chance. Although talking of the Red Bull drivers, there was some quality banter going on Twitter between Mercedes and Max Verstappen.
Yeah.
Max has gone up a lot in my estimation with some of his tweets.
Oh, every time I think, like when you catch Max Verstappen, like off guard, and especially I don't know if you've seen some of the little vines or whatever the kids call them now, whichever the popular video messaging thing of choice is.
Snapchat?
Possibly.
I don't know. I'm 46.
Yeah, well,
I'm not down with the kids.
I'm not quite that old, but
You're still old.
I'm nowhere near 46.
No, true.
There's zero. There's a zero at the end of the number, but the oh, no, it's more than zero, but you know what I mean. Just double figures. That's what I tried to say. But see, in my junior years, I haven't even learned how to count yet.
If you get beyond 4, you are stuck. Typical drummer.
But where was I? Jesus.
Max Verstappen, popular video messaging.
Oh yeah. If you catch him off guard, he seems like a really nice guy.
Yeah, he is. That's what he comes across as. But yeah, if you get a chance to have a look on Twitter, have a look for Max Verstappen. I think he's Max 33 Verstappen. Just some of the conversations that he's been having with the Mercedes team, and hats off to the Mercedes media people as well, because their replies to him are fantastic, and other tweeters as well and teams.
Yeah.
Favourite of mine was about an hour after everything broke. Renault tweeted Mercedes saying, "We've just been for our Christmas lunch. Place was lovely. Had no mobile signal though. Have we missed anything?"
Renault ace.
Yeah, Mercedes come back with nope, and the gif of Homer Simpson disappearing into the hedge.
That's ace.
What do we think about Alonso? Because
so just quickly, do you want to know the coolest way somebody found out that Nico had left today?
Go on.
One of our listeners, Gemma, was at the filming of Grand Tour today.
Oh right.
And because they were filming on set, they couldn't have the mobile phones with them or anything like that.
Oh no.
Jeremy Clarkson nipped out for a cigarette, came back on set. He goes, "Has anybody heard about Nico Rosberg?" So yeah, getting told by Jeremy Clarkson that Nico Rosberg's retired.
Yeah, that's
pretty cool.
That's pretty impressive, actually. Have you seen any episodes of the Grand Tour yet, by the way?
No, I haven't.
It's Top Gear.
Is it?
Yeah.
That's what I thought it'd be. Is it good?
With more money.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's pretty good actually.
Yeah.
Seen both of them so far. But yeah, what do we think about Alonso? Because what's he called? Mark Hughes, who is Sky F1's technical analyst guy.
Yeah.
He seems to think that Fernando could be the favourite choice.
I think Fernando. I just think the marketing and the steel. Like, you remember the fuss McLaren made out of fucking wrestling Alonso out of Ferrari.
Yeah.
And with Alonso comes a lot of media coverage.
Oh hell yeah.
And I'd imagine quite a large lump of sponsorship from Spain.
You would have thought so.
Yeah, I'm sure Mercedes don't need sponsorship. But,
no,
you know.
But it's nice to not have to pay out that extra $17 million that he brings in sponsorship.
Well, the thing is, he'd be
or whatever the figure is.
Alonso's one of those drivers that gets paid a massive sum of money, but because of who he is, I imagine he probably. The money to pay Alonso probably comes from anywhere but who he works for.
Yeah.
So I mean, right, for me, this is ace because I think looking at it, if you put Seb, Jensen, and Alonso as the three top drivers, you know, that would probably the guys that are being spoken to right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. For a Jensen Button fan, that means that's a 2 out of 3 chance Jensen's in the sport next year.
Well, yeah.
The only way Jensen in that scenario, I'm not saying that's the way it's going to work, but the only way Jensen doesn't get a seat again is if Seb gets it.
Yeah.
So for me, I wonder whether this has been something that's been rumbled and rumoured all along, and like this is why the button was kept on. We thought we always thought button was kept there because Fernando might walk.
Fernando was going to walk because Fernando was going to retire or go to WEC because
maybe
next year's car he thought it was going to ruin his career.
Yeah, let's not beat around the bush here. If Nando can do it, if Nando can make the move, he'll make the move.
Yeah. Right, we're going to take a brief jump cut because we are about to be joined by virtual statman Sean Kelly.
Do you want me to do some lift music?
No, it's quite all right. Because I'm actually going to do a proper edit. Thank you for the lift music, Lee. But we now have our special guest on, virtual statman Sean Kelly. Hi, Sean.
Hello.
Hi, mate. You all right?
Good afternoon from California today instead of Arizona like last week.
Oh, it must be difficult keeping track of where you are.
Yeah, it can be sometimes. I've woken up many times. I'm sure people are familiar. People who travel around doing Formula One are familiar with this. The notion of waking up in the morning thinking, "Where the hell am I?" Many times I've woken up and thought, "I'm sorry, I don't know where I am."
It happens to me most mornings, and I barely leave my house.
Yeah, and I had that this morning when the phone next to my bed started going zzz, zzz. I thought, oh, someone's texting me, and then a minute later, zzz, 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 zzz. What's going on? Something massive's happening at 10 to 6 in the morning. What's happening? I look over and I was like, what?
Did you think it was a hoax as well? Like I did when I first saw the first couple of tweets and things about it. I thought it was just some like celebrity suicide hoax, and one of those things.
I didn't, because my girlfriend tweeted me to tell me. Or not tweeted me, texted me to tell me. And I thought, well, blimey, it must be big. If my girlfriend says, he's retired, I told you he'd retire, I told you he would do that. Oh, okay, well, yeah, you did, but...
I hope you scribbled down some lottery numbers after that.
Well, that's what she said. She said she should go and buy a lottery ticket. Coincidentally, I had been awoken from a dream in which I'd won money on the lottery in this dream. I don't know where it was going, or like I'd won like 100 grand or something like that. It was like not life-changing money, but like it was a good day. And then I got woken up this thing, waking me up like, Nico Rosberg's retired. What's he doing? He doesn't need to retire. He's only 31.
I mean, that's the thing. It does seem very young for a top driver.
He is, and it's almost, it's unprecedented in our generation that a driver would retire as the incumbent world champion at such a young age. I mean, I know Alain Prost retired in 1993 as the world champion, but he was, 38, I think he was, when he retired as world champion.
Yeah.
Jody Scheckter was 30 the year after he retired. He won the title in 79 when he was 29, retired 12 months later, age 30. And went away and did something completely different with his life. He did the firearms training system, and now he's an organic farmer, as he keeps reminding us. Yeah, I mean, it's highly unusual. Yeah, I mean, you really have to go back to, for someone to retire as the incumbent champion so young, you go back to like Mike Hawthorne, who was still in his late 20s in 1958. And he was retiring because it was a dangerous game, a very dangerous game back then. And we'd have several drivers died in 1958. And you're thinking, well, okay, I understand why he wouldn't want, he'd be yearning for the pipe and slippers. Of course, in the ultimate irony, he then died in a road accident. But, for Rosberg to walk away, and for reasons that are not, I don't want to kill myself, and I'm not competitive anymore, or no one's giving me a seat, it's a very, very unusual thing. Basically unprecedented.
Well, okay, especially when you consider, barring anything crazy, it's a guaranteed shot at another championship next year. Yeah, I'm sure some of the order is going to shuffle around a bit, but whoever's up there, it's going to be Mercedes and hopefully another team, you'd think, wouldn't you?
Well, at the very least, you would think, okay, well, even with the switcheroo with the new regulations, you would think, okay, podiums, of course,
Yeah.
wins most likely, championship, good chance of it. So yeah, to just say thanks but no thanks, I mean, it's quite impressive if you think about it. I mean, if you think about it, if you've got everything you ever wanted,
It's
and
very brave.
you're at the top of the tree, and you've got bazillions of dollars coming into the bank, and you think, oh, all I've got to do is stay here, you know, even just cruise and collect, and I still get umpteen billions for doing this, you know, and to say no thanks, I've had my fix, it's been great, peace. That's really impressive and good for him. Very few drivers get to be world champion, and even fewer still get to retire on their terms. You know, Jensen, for instance, Jensen's sort of getting naturally muscled out, you might say, at Formula One. Same with Felipe Massa.
Might not be now.
Yeah, well, maybe not. But in Nico's case, he had it all. Like, okay, what are we doing next season? Just simply said, nah, I'm sorry, I've had it with this. I want to go and do something else.
Yeah.
So good for him.
Well, I think like the statement that he put out, I think the statement was very classy when he was talking about how his wife had been looking after their child, and even referring to his championship as our world championship. Yeah, it's his statement was really good. Yeah.
Well, again, you know, everybody who travels in Formula One with any great regularity knows the strain that the travel puts on relationships. And I mean, I don't go to all the Formula One races, but I do commute a lot because of various other things related to Formula One, from doing television and blah, 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 blah. So I know the strain it puts on a relationship, because I have my girlfriend who doesn't travel with me all the time, and I have my son as well. And I know that you know, there are times when you just think, I've just had to sod it with this. I just want to go home and just live a normal life. What I would say as a cautionary note is that after 2 or 3 months of that, you think, okay, is there any chance I can go back on the road now? I've kind of had enough of this. So, you know, so there is a possibility that after 6 months of doing all of the household chores, putting up those shelves in the garage and all the other things he's probably been nagged about, that you might think, wouldn't mind having another go at that whole F1 gig.
Do you think the doors would be open for him if you decided to do that?
I don't know the nature of his departure from the race seat. It might be that Mercedes say, yes, you can retire, but you can't come back. Like, our contract is watertight. You sign for X number of years. You cannot come back until you serve out that term. So you essentially be on gardening leave.
Oh, yeah,
but,
I didn't think of that.
But there's also the possibility, of course, that Mercedes might want him back, in which case, well, you know, why wouldn't they? He's just delivered a title to them. Oh, yes, I know it's a great car, blah, 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 blah. The fact is, someone has to drive it. Would he want to come back? Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that there'll always be pangs of, you know, I'm sure there'll always be things like, oh, I'd love to get back out there. But then there's all the training and the PR, and that's all the stuff. I'm sure if it was just a case of driving the car, you know, you'd want to do it the rest of your life. But it's all the other assorted stuff, going to airports, being in hotels, just, you know, the endless PR, dealing with the media. It's all that peripheral stuff. And then going out and doing all the training that you have to do. You know, it's not a bowl of cherries. There's a lot of hard work that goes in there. And he's just decided, nah, screw it. I'm going to go and be a dad.
I wonder whether the way media and some public treated him as well. I mean, like this podcast included, has found him sometimes in interviews and stuff to be like a little bit robotic and slightly less than human. You know, the way he comes across sometimes, and I can totally understand if that's what he's had to do. You know, to sort of put his psyche in various boxes, so he has Formula One Nico and real life Nico. But I wonder whether sort of any like backlash he's had from that has got to him over the course of this year.
Well, it's always possible, but someone would have to ask him. I mean, I've interviewed most of the current drivers on the grid, and Nico Rosberg was actually the one I found easiest to interview. Whether that's because I'm also an autonomous, emotionless android, but we seemed to have a good rapport when we were face to face. It's possible, you know, it is possible that the criticism may pain him, but you know, you're kind of in the wrong game if you've got a thin skin. You know, Formula One's not for
In any sort of professional sport or like anything that you face with media, I think you've got to have a thick skin.
Yeah,
Haven't you?
any situation where you are up for offer in the public eye is, you're going to have to take the rough with the smooth. Even me at my level of F-list celebrity, which would barely get me selected for a reality TV show, even I get a certain level of flack, which I just deal with it. You could just think, well, yeah, loads of people are going to think you're crap.
Well, that's it.
It's not.
Sorry, go on.
It's not as though Nico's the only guy on the grid who gets it. Loads of people think Lewis Hamilton's a crap driver, which is ludicrous in my opinion.
Yeah, of course it is.
And people overreact. They massively. But for instance, when I mention the certain inadequacies of Ayrton Senna online, I get jumped on by everybody who, how dare you invoke the name of Saint Ayrton without due reference. And I just say, no, he drove someone else off the track at 160 miles an hour to win a world championship. That's not a good piece of driving.
It's the same with Michael Schumacher now, I think. You're not, no one's allowed to talk about Michael Schumacher's transgressions over his career.
Exactly. There's a lot of overreaction. I hope that didn't come into it. I really hope it did. I hope it was just simply, nah, enough. I'm out of here, Because it'd be nice to think that he wasn't trolled out of F1, especially as the world champion. I mean, the guy is the king right now. He's the man to be shot at. So, yeah, it'd be good to think that he said, "No, I always intended to retire when I was on top."
And if that's the case, that is really good, because it means we've actually seen that behind the media Nico Rosberg, there is a real person. We thought it showed through a little bit when you could tell on the podium it just hit him the enormity of what he'd achieved, and it was I don't know the best way to describe it, but it was a great moment just to see him being him. It's the only way I can put it.
Yeah, I mean it's at times like that when you do see the human element. I mean, whenever you get a champion, particularly a new champion, you do see the human element come into play. But even the most reserved of individuals, you get to see it on a human level. I always particularly remember when Lewis Hamilton won the title in 2008, those scenes in the garage with his dad, and you suddenly stop and think, wow, they've been doing this for as long as they can remember, and they've just conquered the world in our sport. That's it now. He's the top man in the world. Every year we get a new one like that, and you see that even the most reserved of individuals cannot help but be overwhelmed by the magnitude of that, and that's always pretty cool. And with the pressure gone now, with the pressure gone of being a race driver, I've seen many a race driver before and after they were in Formula One. They were different before they were in F1, and they were different after they were in F1. But the constant pressure of being a Formula One driver does change people. So we'll see a different Nico, I'm sure. I'm sure it'll be a lot more relaxed, a lot more fun, jovial guy to be. I'm sure it'll come across, if he does any media work, it will come across in the camera like that. Actually, no, he's pretty cool. He's all right.
Yeah, I mean, just seeing the difference in Mika Hakkinen, sort of between career and post-racing Hakkinen. I didn't know that he even knew how to laugh.
Yeah, exactly.
When you've got Ron Dennis telling you that you need to show more emotion.
Right.
So where do you think this leaves Mercedes? What's your two penneth on what you think they might do? Because nobody seems to know, including Niki Lauda, judging by what he said earlier.
Well, I mean, logical progression would have it that Pascal Wehrlein will get that seat.
Yeah.
He's driven the car. He's a Mercedes guy. He's German. Ticks all the boxes. And obviously, he's a gateway to the prestigious market in Mauritius, being a Mauritius passport holder. Always a tough market to crack for Bernie. That he's always wanted the Mauritius market.
Oh God, does that mean if Wehrlein actually gets the Mercedes seat, we'll have to come up with a new national anthem?
Well, hopefully it means a Grand Prix in Mauritius, which I'm totally cool with. But it's better than going to modern Hockenheim, which I hate. But yes, Wehrlein would be the logical choice. And consider this: on Tuesday, when Wehrlein ran the car at Abu Dhabi, Lewis was supposed to be in the car, but then he was withdrawn because he was quote unquote unwell. And we all thought we were Sherlock Holmes, thinking, I see what's going on. There's some reprisals going on at Mercedes. Well, it could have been that in the reaction to the imminent, Rosberg saying, hey, I'm going to retire, they said, oh, look, we better stick Pascal in the car and maybe do a bit of evaluation here while we can. So that
it
could
would
make
sense.
It would make sense. And as I said, he's young, he's the future, he's German, he ticks from a managerial point of view, you think, well, he ticks all the boxes in terms of PR. I'm not quite sold on him yet, but the caveat to that is I wasn't sold on Max Verstappen before he came to Red Bull. It was still a case of, okay, I know he's quick, but I need to be truly impressed by this guy. Yeah. And I think Spain and Brazil showed that he belongs at the top table. But just because I'm not impressed by Wehrlein yet doesn't mean that he's not, that he can't be that good.
Does it not seem odd, though, taking a punt on somebody when things are a bit in the air going into a new formula almost?
Well, Williams did this with Damon Hill, of course, when Nigel Mansell retired, and they promoted Damon from being the test driver to the race driver. Worked out pretty well, I'd say. And people thought, well, Damon's just going to be the whipping boy for Alain Prost in '93. And that wasn't the case. I mean, yes, Prost did beat him, but I think there was this idea that Prost will be a country mile ahead and everything, and that wasn't quite the case. Towards the end of the season, Damon was starting to beat him quite regularly. Whether Alain was at 10/10 once the title was as good as sealed is another matter. But the fact remains, he did do it. He pushed Michael for the title in '94, had a very poor season in '95, and then finally got up there in '96. So it's not an unprecedented development to promote somebody from the youth ranks. And let's think about Lewis Hamilton himself. Lewis Hamilton was the GP2 champion in 2006, promoted straight into McLaren in '07, and nearly won the title.
When it was more stable, though, wasn't it? We're not. Mercedes have had everything their own way for so long now, whereas we're going into a season where they might not have everything their own way, and they're going to need. Well, they might need two drivers that are performing. Because you could argue that Max Verstappen and Daniel Ricciardo are the best driver lineup on the grid next year. As a team. Yeah,
if you're basing it on a Hamilton Wehrlein setup, yeah. I don't think we give Vettel and Raikkonen enough respect there either. I mean,
no,
a couple
they're
of
not rubbish. Yeah.
But it's not fashionable to like Kimi lately. It's fashionable to say, well, Vettel's obviously terrible. He's getting qualified by Raikkonen, forgetting that Raikkonen.
I think Kimi's done a fucking great job this year.
Yeah, I think he's been very undervalued. I think, people are using him people are assuming that Vettel should be beating Kimi every race, and when he's not doing that, people are wondering why. Conversely, it should be said that Vettel's race driving is still very good, but Kimi's beating him on the one-lap pace.
Yeah.
That might be a greater function of how he's handling the tyres or how the car reacts on fresh tyres. It could be something more fundamental like that. But going back to your point, it is true that Lewis and Pascal Wehrlein may not represent the strongest lineup on the grid. Having said that, if we promoted, say, if Max Verstappen had been a Red Bull driver as a rookie this season, you would have gone into the season thinking, oh, Ricciardo and Verstappen, well, they're obviously just building for the future. There'd be there's no great shakes there this season, is there? It's obviously going to be Ricciardo's going to be the man and Verstappen's going to be the water carrier.
Yeah.
Not the case at all, as it turned out. Max put in some stirring drives. I do believe also that Ricciardo is one of the most underrated drivers on the grid. And while the big hoo-ha is going on about Max Verstappen, people underestimate the shift that Ricciardo... If we were just talking about, was Nico swayed essentially by, modern-day social media trolls, basically? Criticism, he's no good, blah, blah, blah. Well, I could never see Ricciardo being shifted an inch by that sort of stuff.
No, I couldn't.
No, he always... There's just something about him, and I think it's the Aussie cliche that it's just, get on with it, mate. I'm not going to do the accent.
Aussie grit.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it serves him. It serves him well, just like it served Mark Webber well. It served Alan Jones well. We don't get too many Aussies through the door in Formula One, but the ones who do show up, tend to live up to that national stereotype of, they're pretty tough stuff.
Well, do you think there's anything like as far as Mercedes sponsors and stuff go? Do you think there'll be any phone calls today from their sponsors saying, "Well, hang on a minute. This time last week, we were going into another Formula One season with Mercedes and 2 world champions in the team"?
Yeah, it's a good point. I think it's the high possibility that could be the case. But should be said conversely that they've just done, most of those sponsors have been around for, Petronas have been there since 2010, since Mercedes bought the team. And the whole time, they've only ever had the one world champion because it was Michael. And then he was replaced by Lewis. And only as of Sunday did they have 2 world champions.
Yeah.
So they're used to that scenario. But you are right in that some of them might have been rubbing their hands and thinking, "Oh, we've got it now. This is a license to print money. We've got the 2 world champions head to head now."
Sorry, I was just going to say, because the first thing that Nico did the morning after the race was go to Malaysia and do a PR at the Petronas Towers with the sponsors.
Yeah. Somebody asked me on Twitter, will he have any obligations as world champion? He may well do. I don't know what is the nature of his. I don't want to call it a divorce from Mercedes. Maybe why don't we use Gwyneth Paltrow speak? Let's call it a conscious uncoupling from Mercedes. So I don't know what the nature of that will be. I can't imagine he would completely cut ties. It would seem a bit short-sighted to just say, "No, I don't want anything to do with any of you anymore."
I think there'd be quite.
It would make sense that he would do some sort of ambassadorial stuff.
There's going to be a lot of sort of gala dinners and stuff like that you'd imagine the world champion is expected to go to, wouldn't there? Are you there?
Say that again, you broke up.
Oh, there'd be surely a lot of dinners and stuff like that, like sort of gala evenings where the world champion is historically would go to these things. So you'd wonder whether would there be a chance that it would be something that's actually almost contracted to the sport rather than the team for something like that. If you're our world champion, you are expected to do X, X, and X.
I don't know the answer to that because obviously the last incumbent champion to retire was Prost. It was that's a generation ago. Things have moved on since then. What I do know is that he'll be a much more entertaining world champion at these dinners when he doesn't have to get up early to go and drive the car. It could be that. Can you imagine a Thursday night in Monaco at the Red Bull party? You're getting lashed on Stella all night and just vomiting, and then saying, "Oh, I think Lewis Hamilton shit anyway." He could be the most amazing reigning world champion of all time.
It could be him that gets so tired that he prangs a 6-figure sports car because he's tired.
Exactly.
He'd have thought
I'm sorry, officer. I'm not pissed. I just couldn't find my parking space.
Yeah, who'd have thought that Nico Rosberg could turn into the next James Hunt?
Yeah. Well, he could turn into like Ronaldo, the Brazilian Ronaldo, who got twice the size after he retired. He could turn into that. He'd be all going to all these dinners and basically eating everything out of the buffet, thinking, "Oh, I've been killing it for the last 10 years. He's dying for a meal."
He's just sat on the big boy table with him and Prince Nassim Hamed.
Exactly, and all the other guys who let themselves go a little bit after they retired.
We're going back to Alan Jones then.
Well, yes, exactly. It's Alan Jones. I tell you what, if there'd been a cheeseburger on the podium, he could have extended his career by another 10 years.
Well, so I suppose, as Formula One fans and people that talk about it and stuff, the guy. Am I wrong thinking that what we'd all really like is to see Fernando Alonso in that car next year?
That's if you were asking me to pick any driver, just not based on the future, not based on PR, not based on likelihood of it happening, that would be my pick. I would love Alonso in that car because Alonso's talent is so incredible and so put to waste.
Yeah.
With all respect to McLaren, who they don't need telling that the car has just not been up to snuff the last few years. But even at Ferrari, Alonso did just amazing things keeping Ferrari competitive at all. Particularly in regards to 2012, probably the best season we've ever seen from a driver that didn't yield a championship. Ferrari have only won, I think, 9 Grand Prix in the last 6 years combined. And then he moves to McLaren, and McLaren, they're just hanging around in Q1. I know that wasn't the case this year, but Alonso is very out of position relative to his talent. And for him, if he was suddenly given this opportunity to have a world championship winning car,
it would just be phenomenal. I think we'd see him end his career on a high.
Yeah, and to pair him with Lewis, I know they were previously teammates 10 years ago, but that was when Lewis was a rookie. But to have them come in both as world champions and both, Hamilton in his prime, Alonso, it's almost like Alonso is almost like be back from the dead,
Yeah.
like a Muhammad Ali, come back from the doldrums. It could be this glorious return. I mean, equally, we could be overplaying it, and it'd probably turn out that, knowing Alonso's luck, if he left McLaren, then Stoffel Vandoorne would win the championship next year.
I see. A totally selfish note. I think if Alonso goes to Mercedes, I might just get more button for another year.
Well, yeah. I mean, exactly. You can imagine that somewhere, if Wehrlein doesn't get this drive. Well, even if he does, of course. I mean, Manor have got to look for a new driver, but I imagine that Manor are always looking for somebody who's bringing money or some sort of political kudos. If it happens, most of the other teams, whoever moves, it's going to create all sorts of hoo-ha. The one I feel sorry for in particular is Nico Hülkenberg, who is still yet to finish on the podium in 115 odd races. Looks like his career is going nowhere. Well, not nowhere, but it's kind of stalled. It's stalled. He's forever fated to finish between 5th and 8th position in every Grand Prix ever.
We have
so he thinks, okay, I'm going to put this in my own hands. I'm going to go to the Renault team. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Just going to say we have a running joke on the podcast that we do every week and the live race blogs that we do that at some point in a race Hülkenberg will be running 5th. And it's kind of become a catchphrase. Every time he gets up into 5th, the Twitter stream that we've got running, it always just seems to go mad with everyone. Everyone saying, "Yeah, you called it again." Like, yeah, we didn't have to think too hard about that.
Yeah. He's got like 60 odd points finishes, but only 10 of them are in the top 5. He is. He's in terms of percentages, he is your 6th to 10th place guy, 8 ways from Sunday.
That's a
and it seems such a shame. Yeah. For him to have finally sort of said, right, I'm going to take a gamble here because I'm never going to get out of this purgatory unless I do something big. I'm going to join Renault. Hope we know this year's car was basically built with last year's Lotus money, and there was no Lotus money. So obviously next year's car should be a lot better. But then suddenly this opportunity comes up, and he's a German, and you think,
the stars would have
wait
aligned.
Yeah. Why didn't you say something? I was dying for this seat. What are you talking about? So he must be banging his head on the coffee table at home right now, thinking, "You've got to be kidding me." I mean,
there must be a load of people like that as well, mustn't there? The guys that have just signed contracts go, "Oh, what?" I mean, even the likes of Daniel Ricciardo, because did he re-sign his contract this year?
I don't know. I confess that I don't keep tabs on contractual situations because I don't have numbers. I'm a numbers guy. I like stats. So a
Formula One contract, there's loads of numbers on those.
There are, but unfortunately I don't get to see them. So I don't get to log the numbers, the years, and all of that kind of stuff. But
it's the publicly available numbers he needs.
Yeah. Ricciardo and Verstappen, well versed to stay put because Red Bull, in my mind, I'm expecting Red Bull to start the season with the fastest car next year.
Yeah,
and that's because we have new regulations. It'll be a newie car. Renault have, for the most part, got on top of the things that made their 2014 engine so terrible. And aerodynamically, Red Bull were never lacking. It's always been straight line speed. most of the qualifying sessions this year, Red Bull were 15th or lower in the speed traps. I think there's only like one or two exceptions. So they've always been lacking there. They seem to have gotten around that now. So the car, chassis-wise, is obviously extremely good. And we saw Red Bull on the long runs and in races getting close to Mercedes. Not quite close enough, but close. Went back. We have new regs. There's no reason, all these people saying on Twitter and stuff, oh, Verstappen, you've got to have Verstappen in the Mercedes. Well, that could be the wrong move. He could be moving from the team. There's no guarantee that Mercedes will be in the same position in Melbourne as they were in Abu Dhabi. Yeah. So stay put. It's a better deal for someone like the Alonsos of this world to find like the exit clause in his contract where you think, look, I've been here for a few seasons now and it's not happening. Why not do that? But for the Red Bull guys, as you were, just keep it cool, stay where it is. It looks good for them.
I actually said that just before you joined us, that they're the only two guys that I think would be silly to leave the team they're in if they were offered the drive.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd agree with that. The stability there. There's a rapport between the drivers. That rapport will not stay the same if that car. Let's say the Red Bull's as good as the Mercedes has been for the last 3 seasons. Well, they won't be buddy then. But
no.
You are.
There's going to be no more Snapchats of them both after races.
Potentially not, unless they're having a fight. It would be silly for anybody from Red Bull to be moving to Mercedes, I'd say. Of course, now I've said that, as soon as we come off the air here, 20 minutes later, Max Verstappen will be in the Mercedes.
Yeah, and Lewis Hamilton's gone to Manor, and Danny Ricciardo's followed him.
Yeah, right. Lewis Hamilton, he'd been reading Damon Hill's autobiography and thought, I've got a great idea. I should move to one of these back of the grid teams, especially the one that does red and blue, like footwork in 1996. That would be the perfect move for me.
Just going back to Red Bull, if they are competitive next year, I've been wondering how they're now going to call what next year's equivalent of multi 21 was, because multi 333. Which way round do we go?
Yeah. Well, multi 21 becomes multi 3333. Yeah. Something or other. Yeah. I don't know. You're gonna have to come up with something else, aren't you? I mean, can you use like Jos Verstappen's numbers, for instance? Could be like multi 6. That was his number. He made his Grand Prix debut. There's a whole load of numbers with Jos, isn't there? Yeah. I think that's a situation Red Bull would love to have. If they have that situation, they'll get to it.
Yeah. Although now team orders are allowed, it'll just be a case of swap positions.
Say that again?
If now that team orders are allowed, I think it'll just be a case of let him through.
Yeah. I mean, I never had a problem with team orders anyway. That whole situation with team orders being banned was all the FIA's fault anyway. It was ridiculous. It was insulting our intelligence. We all knew it was happening. Yeah. It was just madness. And when people blamed Ferrari in that Hockenheim 2010 situation, I just said, look, the people you should blame is the FIA and then blame yourselves. All right? Because if you don't think this is happening, then you're wet behind the ears and you've never seen a Formula One race.
Well, what got me about that whole situation was the fact that they are teams. They are a team putting 2 cars in. If it's going to be that you can't instruct how one driver finishes in comparison to another, then you should have 22 teams with 1 car each, all racing against each other. You've got 11 teams, so have 11 sets of team orders allowed.
Yeah, the bigger... I don't have no problem with team orders. Collusion's another matter. The collusion of the nature we saw at Jerez 1997 between Williams and McLaren. Yeah. That's a whole different story. But, within a team, I mean, you're running 2 cars. You're declaring we are a team. We've got 2 cars. Yeah. If you don't want team orders, then just run 1 car. And then there's no team orders. Yeah.
It would be like FIFA turning around and saying, oh, passing is now illegal.
Some people think it already is.
Except for the Spanish national side, who just think it's mandatory.
Yeah, exactly. You could say that. The Spanish football team, to whom passing is similar to an IndyCar fan watching, like a race at Texas or something like that, when they used to have that Hanford wing, that big wing that was just...
yeah.
You have 400 passes in a race, and you just think, "What is the point of this?" It's just too far. It's too far the other way now. Now it's just constant.
It's just a lottery of who happens to be in the lead at the time the checkered flag comes down.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there is a balancing act, and further, not to go off topic here, but obviously we have the DRS situation since 2011, which has helped a lot. And obviously opinions are split on whether they like DRS or not.
How do you feel about it?
To me, it's a little bit contrived. I think I would rather have it more in the hands of the driver, in so much as they can use the DRS for, 60 seconds in the race. Let's say you've got 60 seconds worth of DRS. Use it anywhere, because then you're bringing the tactical element of the driver in, because he's way up the driver ahead and think, right, where's the best place to use this? As it is, if you've got a DRS in a defined location, it's therefore, okay, reach this sign and hit this button. Well, any one of us can do that. And if we've got 20 miles an hour on the guy in front, or 20 kilometers an hour on the guy in front, it's highly likely we're going to pass the guy. It's quite a different matter if you think, well, what if the guy in front can defend with DRS? Well, that changes the equation. Where are you going to use the DRS? Yeah. It puts a lot more emphasis on the driver, because I grew up in the first turbo era, and back then you could whack up boost pressure and pass a guy anywhere, but at the penalty of fuel consumption. So that was a driver decision. How much do I want to trade off? Because I'm going to have to turn the boost down again at some point later in the race, or I'll run out of fuel. In this case, it would be, well, if I'm going to get this guy, how much DRS do I want to waste getting past this guy? Whereas now it's just, okay, get in the DRS zone and hit the button.
I've often wondered whether, instead of the DRS zones, because I'd never thought about it being a certain amount of DRS you could use, but I've always thought that a more powerful push to pass button, which had a certain amount of energy you could use, would be better than what we have now. Hello?
Are you there?
Say that last bit again.
I've always thought that just having a dedicated sort of push to pass button, because I hadn't thought about using the DRS like that, essentially. But if there was an even more powerful curves button, essentially, that you could use, where there was so much energy you would have over the course of a race or over the course of a lap, might be better than these sort of designated overtaking areas.
It would be very easy to have a change of power. I mean, for instance, what if you just had a button that overrides the fuel flow limit?
Yeah.
So if you hit this button, and now suddenly, boom, 100 more horsepower out of nowhere. Now that way, if that was kept secret from us, and it would have to be kept secret, and the reason is because if we know, then the other driver, the team can radio him and say he's now using it. So if we didn't know that was happening, it would add a certain element of jeopardy to it, much the same way as turning up the boost in the old days. But you would still have to adhere to the fuel regulations. So then you could do away with DRS completely, and you'd still have an element of, I'm still trying to pass this guy legitimately, but where? So there are other things too. DRS, it's okay. It's okay. I mean, I'm not adamant against it like a lot of other people are. It's just it's another element of this iteration of Grand Prix racing, and we've seen many different gimmicks down the years, from having a point for the fastest lap to having one lap qualifying to having sliding skirts. It's just another element in the ever evolving sport that this is.
And I think having it is for the best, because it's the best solution that was available at the time, because of the way that it all came from McLaren with the F duct stalling the airflow on the rear wing, and it was the best solution that could be implemented quickly, and it works okay until they find something better and maybe more longer term.
Yeah, and it's important to bear in mind that if we didn't have DRS, everybody would just be complaining that there's no overtaking at any racetrack anymore. In my experience, Formula One fans as a whole tend to have a collective short memory. They often forget how bad the racing was in yesteryear. In their mind's eye, the racing from insert year here was the best racing we've ever seen ever. Now, I've been, my favorite era of racing was the aforementioned previous turbo era, 87, which was actually my first season. But when I watch the races back, I think, this is freaking boring. You've got to be kidding me. I mean, there's like 40 seconds between the cars. What's going on here?
Everything is interesting on a highlight reel. I think that's what people forget sometimes, is that when they see these montages of things, everyone's wheel to wheel and everyone's nose to tail for the whole race. And it's never been like that, all the time.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, when Jimmy Clark was driving, he was a way off into the distance, and it was like, well, Clark's going to win or the car's going to fail. One of those two things will happen. It's never the situation we had in 2012, for instance, 7 winners in the first 7 races, an unprecedented thing in Formula One history.
Well, that'll never happen again in our lifetimes.
Well, you say that. In 1982, we had 11 different winners, so it can happen, but it's a very rare situation. And to look at that and say, the racing's too predictable. Well, how could it have been predictable in that situation? It's not predictable. It clearly isn't predictable if you can have that situation.
We get Pastor Maldonado in that Mercedes and nothing's predictable anymore.
I got Maldonado and Taki Inui at 7,000 to 1. I missed out on Leicester City for the Premier League, so I'm going in for this one.
There was a great meme someone had put up on Facebook with Pastor Maldonado on a phone. And the first picture was him saying, "Hey Toto, how you doing?" And it's got Toto underneath on another phone going, "Anybody but you, Pastor. Anybody."
Oh, dear old Pastor. He better driver than people say he is. I know he was a bit of a bowling ball down the alleyway, but.
You don't win races by being a bad driver.
You don't win
all the time.
You don't win in Spain and fend off Fernando Alonso by being a bad driver.
True.
Exactly, and he had a very good record in GP2, and he was always a ringer at Monaco. He was always very good in the lower formula at Monaco. Apart from that one time that he crashed into a marshal and broke his leg, we'll gloss over that.
just leaving out the worst
time
one.
He was in Monaco, it was good.
What a lucky marshal! Though. What a lucky marshal that must have been.
Yeah, that happened. That was a World Series Renault in 2005.
Jesus.
Yeah, I think we've. I've seen the video.
He got like a 10-race ban or something like that.
Pastor Maldonado was one.
It was a good day. So it was a walking highlight reel, Pastor Maldonado. we used to run that sound effect of the bowling ball going down the alleyway. Every time. Okay, here comes Pastor. But yeah, he was a lot better driver than people think he is. If you look at his performance relative to Romain Grosjean last year at Lotus, people will be surprised. They think he's some sort of joke, but he wasn't. He's wild, yes. I definitely agree with you there. He could make a few bonehead moves. I saw him crash twice in a straight line while he was at Lotus because he was messing about with the steering wheel and ran off the road. But that's genuine. I'm not making that up, by the way. But he was capable of surprising bursts of speed. But he did briefly hold a record as being the only man to win a Grand Prix and never finish in the top 5 in any other Grand Prix in his career.
That would have been a tremendous stat if he could have kept that up.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think he blew it for me. I think he was like 5th in Abu Dhabi 2012. I think it was there. Yeah, there was a race that, but everybody was distracted because Raikkonen won the race. So everybody was too concerned with the hoo-ha concerning. Oh, Raikkonen's just won a Grand Prix for Lotus. Isn't that amazing? But I think it was Abu Dhabi 2012.
Yeah, I think all Kimi would have been concerned about was he gets on the top step of the podium and he's in a dry country.
Well, take the rough with the smooth, don't you? Once he gets back to the hotel, he'll be fine.
Yeah, that's true. Thanks a lot for joining us tonight, Sean. I know it's been really short notice, so cheers for taking time out of your Californian relaxation schedule.
No worries. I'll be back to the beach, I think, maybe with my cup of tea and my my BBC Radio 2 because I'm a man of a certain age.
What do you do in the off season? As like Formula One wise.
Well, I tend to do other stuff actually. I mean, I haven't got to go to work again until whatever it is, the 26th of March. So
do you go to the tests?
I don't go to the tests. No, I mean, obviously I study the data from the tests, but I don't need to be present or anything. I mean, it'd be kind of nice if I was, but I don't have to be.
Yeah.
Most of the time, I mean, at the moment, I go away once the season's over. I go away from Formula One, do something else completely different until the new year. This interview notwithstanding. because it's good. It's good to sort of decompress from it and just because you want to get to January when the new launches are on and like Formula One. Yeah, because you don't want to just wallow in more and more work and just think, oh, I should have taken a break from this, you know. And I know it's not a situation that most people are fortunate enough to have. So I know, okay, I've got 6 to 8 weeks here where I can just go away, not think about cars, not think about Formula One, and come back in January and start to think about, okay, 2017, what are we doing?
Oh yeah, I can appreciate it's a balancing act because when your passion becomes your job, then you know it would be very easy for your passion to stop being a passion and it just become a job. Then
exactly, you've hit the nail on the head there because sometimes obviously I'm very spoiled rotten to have this job, and for the most part it's great. But there are some days that are not so great, and you think, you know, I used to escape from days like this by going and doing something to do with Formula One, be it watching a race, reading about it, you know. But now that is the daily grind now. So it pays well to get away from it completely, so that when you come back, you've got a new, fresh frame of mind and just. Yeah, I'm as excited about 2017 as I would have been excited about, you know, like Mansell. Maybe is Mansell going to win the championship this year? Or 1991, he's got to win it this year. Senna's got nothing for him. You know, it's gonna. You know, you want to have that enthusiasm. The person I particularly admire with all this down the years is always Peter Windsor, who's the most. Every time I speak to Peter about like a new season or anything like that, you feel like you're speaking to Peter age like 12, and he speaks with such enthusiasm as if like it's the first season of Grand Prix racing that he's ever seen. And you think, how can a guy have been? He's been in the sport since 1972 on site. He's been team manager at Williams. He's been team manager at Ferrari. He's done this, that, and the other. He had the US F1 thing. He's had all sorts of this, that, and the other happen to him, good and bad, and he still retains that enthusiasm. And I think that's what we should all have in Formula One. A lot of people in Formula One are very jaded. I try and retain that enthusiasm of, we're going to go Grand Prix racing. You know, let's do it.
Yeah, everyone definitely needs downtime. Just sort of saying when your passion becomes your job. A few years ago, I was asking a record producer friend of mine. He was employed by a studio, and basically all he did was produce music all day, most of the night while he was at work. And I said, you know, how do you relax? And the only thing that he wanted to do to relax was listen to Radio 4 because he'd actually get to hear people talk rather than play something.
I similar sort of thing, by the way, not to interrupt. I'm in a band here, and we're talking about doing a show at the House of Blues here, which would be a bit of a coup.
Yeah.
I mean, the other day I just sat down and played drums. I played drums by myself with my phone plugged into the amp, and I was just playing along to like music, like just like Oasis or U2 or Led Zeppelin, you know, just playing drums just for the fun of it, because I said I haven't played drums like just for the hell of it, like because we're too busy like trying to engineer this, that, and the other to make it sound right. You know, it's just be nice to just. It's the same as like a footballer. You think, oh, you're a professional footballer. When was the last time you went for a kickabout? In the park with your mates. You know, how often do you get to do that as a professional footballer? You never get to do that, because the last thing you want to do when you finish work is go and do that.
Selfish question: what sort of kit have you got? Did you catch that?
No, say that again.
Selfish question: what sort of kit have you got?
I play a Roland TD20 V drum set.
Oh, nice.
Because they're very, very versatile. You know, you got 100 drum kits instead of just the one. I mean, it costs a fortune, but it's well worth the money. And of course, it has a volume control, so you can play it with headphones on and not have to annoy the entire time zone, because whenever you play an acoustic drum set, people can hear you from like the different continent, and it's just so, and not only that, but it's big and it's lumbering, it takes up so much space, it's so friggin' loud, it's just the most obnoxious musical instrument of them all. But if you use V drums, it's different. You just put headphones on and just tap away, like it's brilliant.
Yeah, no, those ones are really good. I've used quite a lot of electric kits over the years, and I like the mesh heads on those feel really nice.
They're great. I mean,
Sorry, go on.
I started off with I think it was the TD9 back in the day, upgraded to the TD20. And I think they've got now, I think it's a TD, is it a TD30 or TD50? I don't know. I'm getting into TD50. The big daddy, the TD50. Yeah. I was taking a look at that, thinking, I might have to go in for that. Don't know if I can live in a world where that exists but isn't in my house.
Yeah, that's It took me a long time, but I eventually talked myself into buying myself the DW that I've been yearning after for years. So
right.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with making big purchases when it's drum related.
You never regret a drum purchase. Let me tell you, folks. Great. If you're not a drummer, get out and buy a drum kit. If you've got stress relief, instead of hitting everybody with a baseball bat, go and buy a drum kit. It's much cheaper, much less time in jail.
For purposes of balance, can I just say that buying a bass is quite good as well?
Yeah.
I also play the bass. I'm just saying.
And Lee has just been shut down.
I have a Fender jazz bass sitting right next to my drum kit.
Nice.
Built-in rhythm section. I'm an overwater player myself.
Nice.
Managed to acquire one. It's a 1984 custom job as well.
Oh, okay. Well, then you're getting way out of my league. I mean, I've just got the bog standard stuff. I haven't got any of that nonsense going on. I'll just go out down to the store and say, oh, that looks nice. I'll have that.
Oh no, this was the hand-built prototype. They made 10, and one of them was for John Entwistle.
Fuck, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yes, they're.
Yeah, I'm just impressed when I go down the store and they've got they've got a replica of Noel Gallagher's. The semi-acoustic guitar he plays in the Champagne Supernova video, the Union Black.
The Union Jack ES335.
Yeah, they've got that, and I've told our guitar player who's American. I've told him, so I'm going to get that for you. Just feel like that look good on you. It confuse the audience, make you look cosmopolitan. because I'm playing drums, I'm at the back. No one cares about me. But the people at the front, they're going to be like, oh, look, it must be a British guy. No.
Give it a couple of months, you'll get deported for stuff like that.
Well, that's true. I've got to get in while the going's good. I've only got like 6 weeks before Trump gets me. So right while the iron's hot.
Do you fancy after when mid-season testing stuff's finished? Do you fancy coming back on and explaining to us idiots what's going on with the times?
Yeah, by all means. Yeah. I usually do a big presentation in San Francisco every March, actually, at the end of preseason testing. There's all these big shot car collectors. They've all got ex Formula One Ferraris and all that stuff. My friend there has Niki Lauda's car from his last drive for Ferrari in 1977. The actual car, the actual engine, everything. Wow. It's sitting there. It sits next to me while I'm doing the presentation. Like, that's the actual fucking car. The actual one. You've got all these big shots in there, and I stand up and blather on about stats and testing and strategy and all that nonsense.
I had a funny. I'm a painter and decorator by job, and obviously there's with the Isle of Man being a bit of a tax haven, there's quite a few millionaires and a few billionaires now per square foot over here, and I ended up getting contracted to go and do a garage for somebody. I walked into the garage, and there was dust sheets over these cars. I looked at the cars and thought, that's a familiar shape, that. So as soon as everybody had cleared away, I pulled these sheets off to see what it was, and there was a Minardi there and a Benetton.
Hopefully they hadn't collided with each other.
No.
Was it and a Benetton or on a Benetton?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. By the way, are you saying therefore that painters and decorators go to the Isle of Man as a tax dodge? Is that what it's all about?
I wish I earned enough to need to come here for a tax dodge. I like to work here because the people that come here to tax dodge.
Right. Yeah. There's usually some good money to be made there.
Yeah.
I'll just stick to software development. It's a lot easier.
Exactly. So you can bring down the system from within. You can just hack your way in.
Precisely. Don't need to hack my way in. I'm developing the system. I'm already in.
I'm just changing.
Right, you've got the frigging skeleton key. Yeah. Nice one.
I'm just changing the world one wall at a time.
That's it. That's the Twitter profile.
I think I can already see it on his next business card. Well, thanks so much for joining us tonight, Sean. Like I said, especially at short notice. Enjoy your winter off, and hopefully we'll be talking to you again in the new year.
I hope so too. If I make any impulsive decision to retire, I hope I don't regret it because I haven't got enough money to get through to March.
Right. Well, if you do, can you let us have the press release first so we can break the story?
You have my word of honour that I will make sure that happens.
That is excellent. Sean, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Cheers.
Thanks a lot.
It's nothing like Christmas party testing. Anyway, we're back now. Great conversation with Sean again. Always love him coming on the show, and hopefully he'll be joining us a few more times next year.
I hope so. I always enjoy speaking to the man. He's very, very knowledgeable, very clever, and a drummer, and that's sound.
And a bass player. Can I just say and a bass player as well? He did say that.
Not everybody's perfect, but
as an extra tonight, we're gonna.
I am, but
no, you're not. As an extra tonight, we're going to play out with one of his band's tracks. His band are called Entity, and you can find them on Facebook under Band Entity. And closing music tonight after we played Clam Calls for War last week. Mm-hmm. I think it's only right.
I hope you enjoyed that. If you did enjoy it, go to Bandcamp and you can download it. And we're actually toying around with some digital distribution things at the minute. So I would imagine that by the next time I speak to you, if not Monday, certainly the Monday after that, you'll probably be able to get Clams Call for War stuff on iTunes.
And Spotify and Amazon and all the other places that all the distribution companies usually put it on.
But iTunes is all that anyone cares about, isn't it?
Yeah, but to be honest, if you're getting your album on iTunes, it's still better to buy from the band direct, just for the simple reason that the band actually gets the money from iTunes. Band actually gets the money from Bandcamp, iTunes.
Oh, well, I mean, even our philosophy's always been that we want to put music out for free, to be perfectly honest. I think we'll have to charge on iTunes.
You do, yeah.
But the album will be 95 pence.
It was a little bit different for the last band I was in because you're going to call me a hipster now, because we had to pay for the vinyl pressing of the... Go on, do it. Go on, do it.
I mean, I could pull these ones out and say it was always a bit different in my old band because we were in the top 10.
Yeah, but that's not a hipster thing. I was just waiting to be accused of being a hipster.
All right, okay.
I'll give you the perfect shot. You accuse me of being a hipster when I'm, I don't know, drinking Coke with ice in it.
You're a 100-year-old man in an Iron Maiden t-shirt. You are the most fitting you've ever been. I'm not going to call you a hipster today.
That's the reason I like Iron Maiden. They're older than me. and there's a bass on this t-shirt.
Well, the bass has been in the place, and we have been in the place for you on this very special podcast.
Yes, we have. Want to thank everyone that suggested that we do it and actually made us shift our backsides on a Friday night when, let's face it, it would have been beers and PlayStation.
To be perfectly honest, like when we decided to do this on Facebook, I was already sat in front of my PlayStation having a drink, so I'm slightly drunk now anyway.
I've had a couple of beers. It is Friday. Can't have too many 'cause I've got a gig tomorrow. When you get to my age, you cannot play
It's
with.
It's Friday. You've
got to get down on Friday. Rebecca Black Friday.
No, I was still thinking of Swiss Family Robinsons. There's nothing to do on that island.
No, that's true, actually. Oh, you mean Robinson Crusoe?
Oh, Robinson Crusoe, sorry.
I said, no, you're opening up a whole kettle of wrong.
No, yeah, wait, that's incest wrong. Shit.
I think it's probably about a good time to go now. Anyway, we will leave you tonight with a track from Entity called It's Not the Same.
Yep.
We'll be back recording on Monday night for the normal podcast, hopefully.
And that will be the same.
It will. Well, we're hoping it won't be the same as tonight because we'll have Chris and Dan back that have recovered from their sweet poisoning.
And it'll be nice to hear their point of view on Rosberg.
Yeah, I mean, we've already posted Chris's take on it on the website, but I'm sure between now and Monday he'll have something else to say as well.
Yeah, well, there'll be more information. We might even have a new driver because I will be surprised if this situation isn't rectified by the time we record.
That is true.
Oh, sorry. I'll be surprised if it isn't rectified on Tuesday after we've recorded.
I was going to say 10 minutes after after we press the stop button. Yeah. Let the silly season commence.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Cheers for all the tweets and stuff.
Yeah. Thanks for all the messages. You stopped me from doing a lot of work this afternoon, which is great because I wanted to knock off early on a Friday afternoon anyway.
Yeah, I was having a lazy day.
It's all right for some. We'll see you next week.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.